then that brings us to our next topic, that is National Anti-Doping Bill passed. Okay. Why? Why is it in news? Because Parliament has passed the National Anti-Doping Bill, and now since the Parliament has passed, the President will of course authorize it, and that is why it has almost become an act. That is why we are discussing the National Anti-Doping Bill. Now, what is doping? Okay. So doping is what is doping basically? What is doping? Doping means taking any such substance that either enhances your performance, it presents a risk to the athlete's health, and it is contrary to the spirit of the sport. So these are the criteria for doping to constitute doping. Okay, anything that enhances performance, or it poses a risk to the athlete's health, or is contrary to the spirit of the sport, that will be considered doping. Now, what in recent years we have seen, for a very fine example, which is also discussed in the GS4 paper, the case study of Lance Armstrong. Lance Armstrong was a cyclist who won a lot of Tour de France. Tour de France is a cycling competition. Okay, so that he won a lot of these competitions, but later in one of in a talk show that is hosted by Oprah Winfrey, he said that he has taken a lot of drugs which enhance his performance. Now, he took these drugs to enhance his performance. So what is wrong with that? The first one is, sports are made for us to push ourselves, our own boundaries, so that we achieve our own we achieve what the best of the humans can achieve. Like Usain Bolt ran so fast. That is the zenith of our human talent, right? So if you take something that enhances your performance, that means you are not performing naturally. You are performing artificially, first of all. That kills the spirit of the sport. The second one is that since everyone is not taking that medicine, specific medicine, right? So that puts you in a relative competitive advantage, right? That puts you in a relative competitive advantage that is unfair to the other people, right? That is also a problem. And the third one is, it also presents risks to athletes. There are many athletes who actually died of heart attack because they took performance enhancing medicines just before their sport, right? It is contrary to the spirit of the sport. Now, like issues associated with doping are, athletes would often suffer adverse health effects and even death. Okay, and stunted growth and disruption of puberty in children. If children are provided with these doping materials, steroid can be associated with depression and in some cases suicide also. Steroids are those substances which enhance our performance, our bodily performance, our strength for a time being. So let's have some background on that. World Anti-Doping Agency was set up in 1999 under the International Olympic Committee. Now there's one woman who is a member of International Olympic Committee from India. I would ask you to figure that out, okay, and answer me in the comment section. Right now, this is the primary world body that oversees all these doping issues in any of these Olympic games and all these games that happen throughout the time. Like Commonwealth Games are currently going on. Okay. India won 3 golds yesterday within 1 hour, and the 3 were in wrestling, right? So WADA's primary role is to develop, harmonize, coordinate anti-doping regulations across all sports and countries. Okay, so WADA is World Anti-Doping Agency's work is to formulate, to harmonize, that means to bring about a harmony between the countries regarding some specific anti-doping regulation across the countries and across all sports. That means WADA releases a list of drugs that are considered as doping drugs, and if any person is being found with the possession of that drug in their body, in either in form of urine or any kind of sample that contains that, then that person will be considered disqualified that for the specific game. Okay. It does so by ensuring proper implementation of World Anti-Doping Code, that is WADA code, and its standards, conducting investigations into doping incidents, and conducting research on doping. Okay. Also, it educates the sports person and related people. Related people means the support staff, right? The athlete's coach, the athlete's physiotherapist, the doctor and all, regarding the WADA's regulation, what the WADA regulation are. And very importantly, WADA requires the countries to have national anti-doping agencies or national anti-doping organizations for the implementation of this anti-doping rule. Right. So India also is India also plays Olympics, right? And it is also a member of International Olympic Committee. So it is also obligated to form a national anti-doping organization. So in the pursuit of that, India formed National Anti-Doping Agency in 2009. It is an autonomous body and it functions within the Ministry of Sports. Okay, but it is registered as a society under Societies Registration Act 1860. It is registered as a society under a Societies Registration Act 1860. Now, what are the functions of NADA? It implements the WADA's anti-doping rules. It formulates its own anti-doping rules. Okay, and it regulates doping control program, conducting doping tests, and authorizes penalty in case of any violations. Okay, but the problem is, since this body is not a body registered under any law, it is not a statutory body. Okay, so what happened was, someone challenged the decision of the NADA, and the court said that since it is not a statutory body, its decisions cannot have legal bindings, and hence its decision cannot be legally binding. Okay. So that is why, to change that status, this NADA bill has been brought, and now it has been passed. The NADA bill basically provides statutory status to National Anti-Doping Agency. And more primarily, India does not have any anti-doping laws. India does not have any anti-doping laws. To counter everything, all of these things, this bill was brought to form an India's anti-doping law, right? What does this law say? It prohibits doping. It prohibits doping. See, NADA, that already existed, was the national organization for dealing with the cases of doping, but its decision was not very much effective, in the sense that it was not a statutory body, and rather it was a society under 1860, Societies Registration Act 1860. Okay. But now that has been done away with. Plus, there was no law that prohibited doping in India. There was no law that prohibited doping. So anyone could challenge what? The decision of NADA. If there is no law, under which law are you prosecuting me, right? To change that, now this NADA bill has been brought, right? And this NADA bill, okay, the bill prohibits athletes, athlete support personnel, and other persons engaging in doping in the sport. It strictly prohibits them. It also imposes penalties and fines. Okay. The support personnel include coach, trainer, manager, team staff, medical people, physiotherapist, and all the persons working with or treating or assisting an athlete. This is very important, because not only the sports person but also his support staff, okay, is prohibited from doping. Okay. It provides the statutory status to NADA. It provides statutory status to NADA, which is currently registered as what? It is registered as a society under Societies Registration Act 1860. Now it also forms National Board for Anti-Doping in Sports. It forms National Board for Anti-Doping in Sports. The bill establishes a National Board for Anti-Doping in Sports, which will make recommendations to the government on anti-doping laws, on the procedures to be followed for anti-doping laws. Okay, And the second important point is the board will contain disciplinary and appeal panels. Disciplinary panel is the panel which will pronounce judgment or which will pronounce disqualification, for example, of an athlete if the athlete is found guilty of doping. And there will also be an appeal panel where the athlete can make an appeal against the decision of the disciplinary panel. ठीक है. Dope test laboratories. It will also help establish dope test laboratories in India, which will be having statutory recognition, which will be recognized by law in India. Okay. And the National Dope Testing Laboratory will be deemed as the principal dope testing laboratory in the government in the India, and the central government may establish more national dope testing laboratories. Through this bill empowers the central government to start or establish more national anti-doping test laboratories. Right. What is the significance of the bill? India could carry 6,000 tests yearly. India could carry 6,000 tests yearly. Right now, the India's capacity to carry out doping tests is around 6,000 per year. But in cases where such competition like Commonwealth Games and all these are held, the need for conducting such tests is around 10,000 tests a month. Right. So India, for example, if it wants to conduct an Olympics in India, so it will need to have such an infrastructure of anti-doping laboratories, right? Okay. So it will need to have such infrastructure which will be able to provide so many tests within such a short time. Okay. Like after the implementation of this bill, the government will set up more laboratories. Okay, that will have legal recognition, through which we will be able to perform more than 10,000 tests a month. That is a huge leap forward from 6,000 tests yearly. Okay. Now India will now join the League of Nations like US, China, France, Australia, Japan, South Korea to have a law and a dope test laboratory. So only these countries have a law regarding anti-doping. Okay. Around 30 countries have their own anti-doping law. Around 30 countries have their own anti-doping law, and despite the fact that India does not have anti-doping law, if we set up a lot of laboratories, so we will be able to conduct a lot of tests, and that will contribute to our economy as well. For the foreign countries as well, we will be able to conduct anti-doping tests for the foreign countries as well. For example, for Commonwealth that is going on in UK, we will be able to perform tests for that also. The bill will also pave the way for establishing more dope test laboratories in the country. Okay, samples from 16 countries were tested in laboratories located in India. It says that already we have been testing a lot of samples from other countries, right? That provides us with the not only technical advantage over other countries, but it also will contribute economically to the GDP. I hope you understood the National Anti-Doping Bill, or what is National Anti-Doping Bill seeking to do. If you have any questions regarding this, kindly ask me in the comments.